Donald Trump is not the sort of man to let a legal jeopardy ruffle his feathers, but it's clearly enough to ruffle his hair, I'm gonna say. I'll call it hair. Now, Trump's appearance has very little to do with the threat that he poses to America or to democracy, but I am always struck by the massive gap between the way his advocates in the media and his cultists on the ground talk about him as a man, as a figure, and how he actually looks and how he actually talks. And I have a point that I wanna make out of this, but first I do wanna make fun of him a little bit more. So if we can go to a few more shots from that. You can see a little screenshot here. Obviously, there's a little bit of a problem there. And in the back, it's actually worse. So if you're Donald Trump, don't let anyone stand behind you. But when I say the way they talk about him, I want to go to a quote from just last night of Jesse Waters, who said, they're sending MSNBC anchor Rachel Maddow down there, and she's looking at him like an animal. Man, his hair is really orange. Look at his eyes and his lips. He's angry. He's mad. He's upset. And I include this in part because they're saying that she's mocking his appearance. I don't think that she really is, but I am, so it's fair to include this. Watching him, they're not providing any sort of legal analysis. They're acting like he's a zoo creature. And what happens with King Kong? You remember, boom, it's not going to be good. So he's gonna bust out of his cage eventually. They're not gonna be able to keep him down. Well, first of all, on Rachel Maddow's show, they do the legal analysis. I don't watch it, but they do it. And I've done more than enough this week that I feel comfortable talking about it in these terms. But he's not a wild beast. He's not an alpha silverback gorilla who's going to bust out. He's not a guy who cares only about being strong and defending people. He's a guy who's utterly obsessed with his appearance, which is fine. Many people are obsessed with their appearance. I'd say it's more common perhaps than it's ever been in American history. But let's be honest about that. Let's take another look at Donald Trump, and we're gonna go away from his hair. And I just want you to take a look at this recent picture. If you do that to yourself, you're allowed to do that. You're allowed to paint a circle onto your face and not have it continue past that circle. You can do that. But let's be honest about what you're doing. You cannot pitch this as a person who is utterly authentic and real. He's not telling it like it is. He's not even presenting it like it is because he cares more about his appearance. He's vain. He's human in that way. Talk about him in those terms and not about him being this force of nature, this King Kong creation or something. I just think it's insane how they pitch this guy who is so much less than they give him credit for. Brett, what do you think?
In the future, people will look at Donald Trump the way we look at like people who wore powdered wigs. And the reason that they put on the makeup with like the big blush is because everybody had scurvy because they were malnourished. Trump's the opposite. And the best thing when you see, as someone who's had professional makeup applied to his face, when you see like a giant gap over the ear, like you see, Trump does his own makeup is what that means. So your Lord and Savior, Donald Trump, stands in the mirror and applies like tinted moisturizer. Mm-hmm. He puts on a self-tanning, like skin changing agent to his face. That's not in my book, because I'm such a toxic masculine guy, and according to Turning Point USA, I'm how we should be. A guy who puts makeup on his face is not a real man.
They do say that. They do seem to think that. To me, it gives like a Morton Joe vibes. Like you want the idea that this person is in their prime and they're virile, but he's not doing the things to attain that toxic, old-timey physical appearance or whatever. Yeah. But he still wants it. I'm not even saying he should want it, but he does want it and doesn't work for it and then paints it onto himself.
Yeah. It's
so
Wizard
be honest
of Oz,
about that.
It's all of that.
Yeah.
He can't, who he is as a person physically is not impressive. He has an insane hairdo, an insane, crazy hairdo. And anybody else has that isn't already your favorite person, you make fun of it. People have for years and years because it's so ridiculous. He's peacocking. And these folks are pretending that it's not ridiculous. They are gaslighting you into thinking this is how people should look. They're gaslighting you to think he has a rippling physique. You could say he's confident. You could say he put little Marco in his place with words.
Yeah.
But he's not physically impressive, guys.
Yeah. And again, he doesn't need to be, but they pretend that he is. Anyway.
And you're stupid if you believe it.
Thanks for watching our video. Did you know that you can support our show by becoming a subscriber? Just click the subscribe button and also ring the bell so that you get notifications when we're live or when we post new content.